I'm Dave Wiesdock, Sage of Creative Scaffolding.
And I'm Jen West, Professional Rebel of Delight.
And this is Shadow Casting. Hey Jen, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Dave. It's a beautiful day. We're podcasting. What could be better?
I'm telling you what, the sun is blue and just bright out today. And
the sun is blue?
Yeah, the sky is blue. The sun is shining and the sky is blue.
There we go.
Oh. So I had a really cool quote today that I wanted to share. And it's from one of our jointly favorite books, Way the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And one of the characters in it, his name is Sock, short for Socrates. Just a little background about this character. He's kind of the mentor role in this book and provides insight and wisdom to the main character. And I found this quote particularly poignant towards our shadow casting podcast. And I felt that this really hits on some of the key points that we've discussed in previous podcasts, like habits and personal responsibility. So the quote is, to rid yourself of old patterns, focus all your energy not on struggling with the old, but on building the new.
Yeah, Sock has all the best quotes. Yeah, I like the idea of where your focus goes. You know, that's something that Anthony Robbins also focuses on a lot. It's like, where is your focus? And this quote is really directing Dan to look at, stop hating on this thing and start looking at what you want to create. And yeah, I love that. Let's riff.
Okay. So I really like how you talked about it relating to focus. It kind of reminded me of this Star Wars quote of all things. It's, I think it's in episode 1, but Qui-Gon Jinn roughly says, you know, your focus determines your reality, right? And I think that that's a huge part of this, is that where you're, oh, you know what? How do you say it? Because you say it so perfectly, but it's like where your focus goes, energy flows, or where you're, yeah, is that it?
Yeah, that's the Tony Robbins quote. Yeah. He always says, where focus goes, energy flows. Yeah.
Perfect. And I think that that's a great kind of secondary quote to this. So I want to start breaking it apart with this first half of the quote, which is to rid yourself of old patterns. And this can be often tricky for people because we don't always know where these patterns and habits are popping up. And patterns and habits aren't necessarily just actions either. I mean, we have habits like brushing our teeth, taking a shower, going to work, taking care of the kids, making food. And we have self-talk patterns. We have ways that we think about ourselves and how we present ourselves into the world. And so what happens is these patterns create an energy around us, a structure. And when we try to break apart that structure, it's often met with resistance and struggle because we're trying to reword a pattern that's already in place. And I think that's a misuse of our energy. I want to dive a little into like the chiropractic neurological side just a bit, just to kind of add a little bit of an analogy to this.
I'm smiling about this. I can't wait to hear what it is, but I just wanted to put in there, it also goes back to our last quote, if you didn't hear, from Carl Jung, and making the unconscious conscious. So they're all starting to feed together. Yeah, hit us with the chiropractic because the body gets really stuck.
It does. And I want to dive into that Carl Jung aspect of it too. So make sure that we put a pin in that. So chiropractically, when we talk about our neurology, there's this concept of building neural pathways. And it's always harder to build a new neural pathway than to hijack, quote unquote, an existing one. Where it gets challenging, I feel, is we go, okay, I need to eat healthier, for example. And so oftentimes that neural pathway is already there of, oh, today was a tough day at work, or I'm used to eating my, unfortunately, McDonald's 3 times a week, or whatever our health pattern is, for example. And so when we go, okay, I no longer want to eat McDonald's, I want to eat a salad, most people don't shift their perspective to go, okay, what salad can I eat today? Often the thought that neural patterns already existing, already firing, going, I have to give up my McDonald's to eat the salad. You're in fact enforcing that older pattern. And so you're struggling with that older pattern. And where this quote comes into play for me is instead of focusing on what you're giving up, instead of focusing on what you're trying to forego, you just constantly focus on the healthier behavior, the healthier action that you want to take. And believe it or not, now that you brought up the Carl Jung part, I think this actually ties into baby steps almost. So if you want a healthier lifestyle, a lot of people just go immediately for the end goal, right? So when we set those New Year's resolutions, I think we talked about last time, it's about, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. And they hadn't gone to the gym at all last year. Well, why not just start with 1 day a week? Why? I mean, it's great to set these huge goals and these ambitions. And when you're writing that energy of a new year, new me, it kind of, you get swept up in that.
Why go to the gym at all if you don't exercise? It's like,
Yes.
go for a walk. Start walking. Don't waste money.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And yes, 100%. So going back to that chiropractic example, just to close that loop a bit, what ends up happening, and the reason I wanted to bring this into the chiropractic sense, is when we start to do these new patterns or engage with these new patterns of behavior, it can be uncomfortable. It can be challenging. And what happens, or what we need to do, is shift our energy, shift our focus on how can we maximize this benefit, and where can we make small changes that will accumulate over time. That's how you really build those new neural pathways. And as you build those new pathways, the old ones start to kind of fade away. They get less strong, less powerful. But if you're constantly in this mode of this versus that, or you're sacrificing one over the other, you're still, even though you don't recognize it, reinforcing an old pattern of behavior, an old neural pathway. So in chiropractic, when we're adjusting patients and they keep coming in with what we call the same subluxation or the same issue that needs to be adjusted, it's because they're still reinforcing that behavior, that pattern. So a lot of times chiropractors will give stretches or physical therapy to recreate a new biomechanical behavior that doesn't reinforce that pattern that causes you to have that same subluxation. And to me, it's that same concept with this, is you have to focus on building the new so that the old can fade away. It's not that the old just disappears. It's that as you build the new and focus solely on the new with small incremental changes, you begin to build this new life for yourself, this new energy. And so where your focus goes, the energy flows. And if your focus is constantly on what you're giving up, that's where your energy is still going. And you're kind of fighting this internal struggle.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Just thinking about all of those examples, I'm rebuilding my body with internal martial arts. And there's a part of me that likes to lock up my back and kind of arch backwards. It feels safer that way. And I'm teaching it to stretch and open and round a little more. And my pathways, even when I say, okay, like open the back and expand it out, I suck in and tighten up. And my body thinks it's doing right until I feel it or look in a mirror. And then what we think we're doing isn't actually what our body's doing. And so changing those patterns, I see the exercises. And then to your example of food, that makes so much sense, because if you think about salad versus your hamburgers, like, I deserve my fatty hamburger because my day was so hard and I made it through. And so I deserve this thing. And you can play that exact same game, use that pathway. My day was hard and my body deserves something of high nutritional value to support my growth and my health and who I want to become. But you got to change that pattern, that thought process from something that's satisfying in the second to something that's sustainable and satisfying over the long term. Sometimes it's how quickly you can get it. I know when I'm at the beach, we have a lot of fruit in the fridge, but we don't eat the fruit unless it's been mixed in a bowl and it's just sitting on the counter. And if it's on the counter, then we are picking at that fruit all day. So you create that pattern that says, there's fruit and there's veggies, and they're just sitting there and you're just snacking on them. They're crunchy and they're sweet and they're delicious. And it's what your body needs instead of what's sitting on the counter are chips.
And very interestingly, if I say I want to eat fruit and veggies and I buy it and it sits in the fridge, that's not really supporting my desire to have a change. But if I'm at the beach and I've already prepped all the fruits and veggies and they're easy to grab and it's that quick, original fast food, then I'm more likely to consume that and fill up on those fruits and veggies, which are a healthier food choice. I think we go, oh, I had a long day at work. Nothing's prepped in the house. I'm just going to get fast food because that's easier or quicker. And instantly we've cut off that new pattern that we're building because we're still struggling with the old. Versus if I know I'm going to have a long day at work or a rough day at work, I can plan ahead. It's that creating an environment ahead of time.
And that may be exactly what this quote is talking about, because it's like, don't focus on the energy and the struggle of the old. So don't think about, well, yeah, but I'm going to want the hamburger and I desire hamburgers. And how am I going to stop wanting hamburgers? Which I love a good hamburger. So it's not the hamburger's fault. It's just the timing. But I'm building the new. How do I get more fruits and vegetables in my day and make it easy? And that's where the focus needs to go. How do I make the things that I want and desire when I have energy and motivation? How do I make that easy when I'm exhausted?
100%. And now I'm recalling a past podcast in a previous week where we talked about like doom scrolling. And we talked about how most people with insomnia or depression will just doom scroll on their phone for hours on end. And we talked about, okay, well, what if you can't really get off the phone yet? So you make a smaller change, like picking a different app, maybe a book to read or something like that. So instead of struggling with the old, instead of struggling against not using your phone outright, you change why you're using that medium. And so you're building that new pathway. We're not saying that you have to go cold turkey and completely throw out everything, but it's where is the struggle itself? If the struggle is with using your phone, then change how you're using the phone. If the struggle is with food, then change how you're approaching food. As you build these smaller changes, you start to build up momentum and excitement. And you're like, how else can I swap out? Or else can I swap out?
So your body adapts too. It is the adaptability to your body saying, I'm getting what I need now, what I crave, what gives us energy. And then you want more of that. So back to the chiropractic, it's building the new pattern that your body really wants. It's what your body wants. It's just addicted to the sugars, and our brain gets in a pattern where we think that's what it needs.
And just to go left field a bit with this and bring in the business aspect, because part of shadow casting is being able to see this in multiple areas in the context. I think in business too, as we've talked about in the past, there's these old patterns of behavior, these old processes and systems that we have in place, and this is how we've always done it. And then someone comes in and they have a faster or newer process that they want to put in place. And so there's this back and forth, this consternation about, well, this is how we've always done it, or this is the new process, and we don't like it this way. And I think what ends up happening is there's so much energy put into the struggle of an old process versus a new process that you miss the opportunity to build new ways to grow the business. Because business itself, they always talk about in business school how a business plan is a dynamic, living, breathable document. But the business itself is dynamic too. Things change over time. And the best businesses are the ones that can adapt, just like a body, with the environment it's in. And so a lot of times businesses struggle because their energy goes into the struggle of an old versus a new way of thinking, instead of just focusing on ways that it can incorporate the new, even if they're small incremental changes. And just, for those that are listening to this for the business sense, I kind of challenge that, and let me know in the comments if you come up with examples in business or with your health or in any other way where you can recognize this sense of struggle and something you're trying to make a change for, and where there might be an opportunity for you to shift your focus onto completely building something new, even if that is scary, and what that might look like for you.
Yeah, I think at the end of this particular quote is awareness and just starting to notice your pattern. Are you focusing on what's not working? Or are you focusing on what you're trying to build and how to make that easy? And so, yeah, just raising your awareness and start noticing, oh, I'm thinking about how I'm suffering and how the struggle's hard and how I'm trying to break that pattern, instead of I want to create this and here are the new things I'm doing and here's what I'm letting go of. And
Absolutely. That's all I have on my end. Is there anything else that you wanted to dive in for on this quote?
no, I think we'll leave it at that. We look forward to hearing from our listener audience on anything that you observe after listening to this podcast. Give it some time, play with it for the week.
And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time.
See ya.